The Foreign Affairs Committee, my humble person, Senator Mbella Moki. Mr. President of the Senate, dear colleagues, during its sitting of 14th November 2024, the Chairman's Conference, after scrutiny, declared admissible Bill number 233-BILL-SEN-3L to authorize the President of the Republic to ratify the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performances, adopted in Beijing, China on 24 June 2012. This bill, already adopted by the National Assembly, was forwarded to the President of the Senate in accordance with Article 30 of the Constitution. In keeping with the provisions of Section 3.3 and 4.7 of the Standing Orders of the Senate, the Chairman's Conference, in its sitting of the 25th November 2024, confirmed the admissibility of this bill and entrusted it for scrutiny to the Foreign Affairs Committee. Your committee met for that purpose on the 26th November 2024. The bill was presented and defended by the Minister of Arts and Culture, assisted for that purpose by the Minister of External Relations. The deliberations took place in the presence of the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of relations with Parliament. In her opening remarks, Madam Chairperson of the Foreign Affairs Committee extended a warm welcome to the members of government whose presence testifies to the importance of the bill under scrutiny for Cameroon's legal framework and the international commitments signed by our country. It emerged from the explanatory statement that this bill seeks to authorize the President of the Republic to ratify the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performances adopted in Beijing, China on 24th June 2012. The purpose of this treaty is to implement the resolution of the Diplomatic Conference on certain copyright and neighboring rights questions of 20th December 1996 in order to address the loopholes in the World Intellectual Property Organization WIPO Treaty on Performances and Programs adopted on the same day and those in the 1961 Rome Convention. It therefore seeks additional protection of the rights of performers in their audiovisual performances in a manner as effective and uniform as possible. This legal instrument deals with, among other things, 1. Relation to other conventions and treaties. 2. The rights and obligations of performers. 3. The transfer of rights. 4. National treatment accorded to nationals of other parties and its own citizens. 5. The bodies responsible for its implementation and monitoring, in particular, the Treaty Assembly and the International Bureau of WIPO. And 6. Rights management information. On a global scale, its adoption was warranted by the still budding stage of the protection provided to performers and their works in audiovisual media. Such uncertainty affects more particularly the performances of stakeholders in the various media, such as film and television, as well as the recording of works of musicians on some physical media or digital and audiovisual platforms. At the national level, this instrument will strengthen the existing legal framework for the protection of copyright and neighboring rights in Cameroon. In other words, it will contribute towards strengthening the protection of Cameroonian talents engaged in the entertainment and cultural promotion industry, a flourishing sector with many socioeconomic opportunities. In essence, ratifying this agreement is vital to enhance protection of audiovisual performers in our country, given the stiff competition dictated by digital technology, which now provides easier and faster access to their artistic works. Brushing on the explanatory statement, Madam Chairperson congratulated government on tabling this bill, which enriches and strengthens the existing legal framework in the field of audiovisual performances. Continuing her remarks, she emphasized that the Beijing Treaty of 24th June 2012 represents a major step forward for the protection of performers' rights in the audiovisual field, and its ratification will strengthen our country's position in respecting its international commitments. She concluded her remarks by reaffirming your committee's readiness to support this initiative in the interest of the development of our legal framework and Cameroon's commitment on the international scene. Invited to take the floor for any additional explanations to the explanatory statement of the bill under scrutiny, the Minister of Arts and Culture began by thanking the chairperson of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate for the kind words and welcome she had extended to him and the delegation accompanying him. It is a great honor for him to have the opportunity to take the floor in this in-camera hall of the Senate to table for scrutiny by your august committee the bill to authorize the President of the Republic to ratify the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performances, adopted in Beijing, China on the 24th of June 2012. Continuing his speech, the government representative asked the chairperson of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate to convey to Senator Marcel Nyat Njifenji, President of the Senate, his sincere gratitude, as well as that of the officials, staff, artists, and the men of culture working in the arts and cultural hubs, for the great concern he has always shown for issues concerning the arts and culture subsector. His thanks were equally addressed to the distinguished committee members and to the whole of the national representation for their attention, understanding, and benevolence with which they have always examined the problems inherent in the arts and culture subsector in general, and the problems of copyright and collective management in particular. He then expressed the wish that the present exchanges would be as fruitful as possible so that copyright will continue to shine in Cameroon in perfect harmony with the very high directives of the President of the Republic, head of state, to make culture a lever for development on the one hand and a living for social cohesion and the cement of national unity on the other. Coming to the bill, the minister emphasized that it aims to extend protection to audiovisual performers. It will make it possible to provide a global response to the protection of our artists when they perform in the audiovisual media in the form of an animated sequence of images accompanied by sound or not, or a representation thereof in a medium that enables it to be perceived, reproduced, or communicated using an online content device. According to the minister, this includes actors, singers, musicians, dancers, or any other person who performs, sings, recites, declaims, plays, and performs in any other literary or artistic works of expressions of folklore. Continuing on this point, the minister recalled that During its second ordinary session of the 2024 legislative year, the Cameroonian Parliament authorized the President of the Republic to ratify the WIPO Performances and Phonograms Treaty, adopted in Geneva, Swiss Confederation on the 20th December 1996. It also mandated the President of the Republic to proceed with Cameroon's accession to the International Convention for Protection of Performers, Producers of Programs, and Broadcasting Organizations, adopted in Rome, Italy, on 26 October 1961. According to the Minister, these international instruments, which have now been incorporated into our legal system as a result of this accession and/or ratification, have proved insufficient to protect performers in the face of technological changes. With the rise of digital technology, the tremendous expansion of cinema and television, and so on. Indeed, it has been noted that these international instruments do not extend protection to audiovisual performances by performers. The diplomatic conference devoted to the scrutiny of certain concerns about copyright and neighboring rights, held on 20th October 1996, noted this shortcoming in the aforementioned bills. During this conference, the parties noted the budding stage of the protection granted to performers and their works in the audiovisual media. It appeared to them that these bills were not specifically adapted to meet the challenge of digital technology and the effective protection of performers' rights, notably in digital technology and television media. The conference therefore adopted a resolution to remedy this situation. If its implementation will result 16 years later in the adoption bills. From a legal point of view, the most significant provisions concern Articles 5 to 12, namely moral rights, Article 5, the economic rights of performers in their unfixed performances, Article 6, the right of reproduction, Article 7, the right of distribution, Article 8, the right of rental, Article 9, the right of making available fixed performances, Article 10, the right of broadcasting and communication to the public, Article 11, transfer of rights, Article 12. It should be specified, he added, that these rights have in common that they organize the protection of the audiovisual performances by performers. As a reminder, the minister emphasized that government, through the Ministry of Arts and Culture, will spare no efforts to work towards strengthening the protection of our artists with a view to improving their living and working conditions. It is constantly working to raise the standards of our artists and the men of culture so that they contribute fully to the migration from the social sector to that of industries and services as prescribed by the NDS 30. Concluding on this point, the government representative requests that the present bill tabled for scrutiny authorizes the President of the Republic to proceed with the ratification of the Beijing Treaty in order to introduce it and make it applicable in our legal system. Going further in his explanations, the minister revealed that the bill under scrutiny is organized into two distinctive sections. The first section authorizes the President of the Republic to ratify the Beijing Treaty on Audiovisual Performances, adopted on June 24, 2012 in Beijing, China. The second article, which relates to publicity formalities, specifies that the said law will be registered, published in accordance with the procedure of urgency, then inserted in the official gazette in English and French. According to him, the bill has a dual legal and social interest. In terms of legal interest, it should be noted that the treaty strengthens the legal framework for copyright and related rights in its section devoted to performance. It should be noted that Cameroon has ratified 2 international instruments devoted exclusively to performance. The WIPO Performances and Phonograms Treaty, adopted on December 20th, 1996 in Geneva, Swiss Confederation, to which Cameroon acceded on July 24, 2024. The International Convention for the Protection of Performers, Producers of Phonograms and Broadcasting Organizations, adopted on October 26, 1961 in Rome, Italy, to which Cameroon acceded on July 24, 2024. To these international instruments should be added the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, Copyright Treaty, adopted on December 20th, 1996 in Geneva, Switzerland, to which Cameroon acceded on July 24, 2024. Law number 200/011 of December 19, 2000 on copyright and neighboring rights and its implementing decree number 2015/397 Cameroon Society of Audiovisual and Photographic Arts, whose acronym is CSCAAP. This network aims at controlling the copyright of this category of rights holders. Secondly, it is through the application of this law and its subsequent bills that the SCDV and other competent OGCs collect the royalties for copyrights and neighboring rights, and they ensure that they are distributed to the rights holders who are its members, including performers. Regarding the social interest, the minister indicated that it is necessary to highlight the paradox marked by the effervescence of television series productions, the increase in the consumption of performers' works by television channels, and the precarious situation in which our creators and artists languish. While some digital channels pay artists on the basis of the number of views, television channels, particularly private ones, are opposed to paying copyright for unspoken reasons. Under these conditions, it is easy to see the contribution of the Beijing Treaty, which organizes protection of audiovisual performances. The Minister of Arts and Culture also pointed out that once ratified, this treaty will be binding on everyone, especially performers and audiovisual media promoters, whatever their form. From now on, this treaty will be used against them to claim payment for copyrights for the benefits of the rights holders concerned, in this case, the performers. Concluding his speech, the minister once again praised the synergy of action between the legislative and executive bodies. This synergy of action is essential if we are to take into account the concerns of our artists, consolidate their rights, and above all, promote their living together in order to make culture the foundation of our harmonious coexistence and social cohesion, as advocated by His Excellency, Mr. Paul Biya, President of the Republic, Head of State. To this end, he urged senators to respond favorably to government's request so that strengthening the protection of our country's audiovisual performance in the face of the tough competition imposed by digital technology, enabling faster access to artistic works becomes a tangible reality. During the general discussion opened on the bill under scrutiny, members of the Foreign Affairs Committee began by congratulating the Minister of Arts and Culture and all his colleagues for the work they have done within the ministry for which they are responsible, particularly in supervising artists. They then expressed concerns about the difference between the bills recently adopted by the Senate and the bills under scrutiny. In this light, your committee members, referring to confusion over the concepts of copyright, neighboring rights, performance rights, and audiovisual rights, asked for clarification of the content and scope of the bill under scrutiny. On the one hand, and on the other, they questioned the ability of the bill whose ratification is being sought to effectively supplement the legal arsenal that they perceive as obsolete. Improving the conditions of artists. On this point, your committee members raised the question of the effectiveness of the measures taken to improve the living conditions of artists who, according to them, remain in a worrying state of impoverishment despite the existence of legal provisions. The poor use of social networks and the audiovisual sector by Cameroonian artists, the links between neighboring rights and copyright. Your committee members highlighted the apparent absence in the convention, whose ratification is being sought, of a clear and explicit link between neighboring rights, in particular performances and the editions, and copyrights, which they consider to be the main foundation of any protection of works. The priority given to neighboring rights. On this precise point, the members of your committee, on the importance given to neighboring rights in the above-mentioned convention, consider that they should not be treated independently of copyright, but in complementarity with the latter. Recognition of the original works. On this point, your committee members raise a perceived inconsistency in discussing performance or publishing without any paying particular attention to the original work, which is the basis for it. Payment of copyright by television channels. Your committee members, noting a recurring problem linked to the non-payment of copyright by television channels, particularly private channels, wanted to understand the causes of this state of affairs. CRTV's debt to the collective management bodies, OGC. Your committee members deplored the large debt accumulated by CRTV towards the OGCs and wondered about the measures taken by government to regularize this situation and, in general, to fulfill their obligation towards artists so that they can live with dignity from the fruits of their labor. The financial gain from which our country could benefit following ratification of this bill. Taking the floor to respond to the concerns of members of your Foreign Affairs Committee, the Minister of Arts and Culture began by praising the contributions of the senators for a meticulous scrutiny of the bills by Parliament. He then expressed gratitude on behalf of the Ministry of Arts and Culture, the artists, and the cultural players. Lastly, he stressed the importance of senators' involvement in drafting fundamental legislation for the arts and culture sector. Turning to the concerns about legislative developments, the minister pointed out that 2 recent laws ratifying international conventions such as those of Geneva 1996 and Rome 1961 now allow greater consideration to be given to the rights of performers. These laws complete the existing legal arsenal, in particular the 2000 law on copyright, to incorporate the economic and moral rights of artists in a framework adapted to the new technologies. Concerning the rise of digital technologies, the minister emphasized the upheaval in artistic practices. Actors such as musicians, dancers, and performers are now recognized as active creators, with rights protected by the text adopted. He added that these advances include mechanisms to guarantee their remuneration through collective management and the exploitation of works on audiovisual and digital platforms. Referring to the ratification of the Beijing Treaty, the minister highlighted its advantages for Cameroon. He explained that this treaty strengthens the international recognition of Cameroonian artists, giving them access to global programs of World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. At the national level, it will increase revenue from the explanation of works on digital and broadcast platforms, thus contributing to national productivity and the modernization of cultural and creative industries. Regarding the application of legal provisions, the minister assured that his ministry is working with collective management bodies, OGC, to ensure compliance with laws. He pointed out that 5 OGCs oversee copyright and efforts are underway to regulate relations with television stations, in particular the payment of royalties due. Speaking of economic benefits, the minister said that the new legal provisions not only enhance the rights of artists, but boost artistic and cultural sector in Cameroon. He encouraged the senators to support these advances, which lay the foundations for greater professionalism and better integration of artists into international standards.